Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Dropping Down from the Rafters podcast here on Toned In Entertainment. Today, I'm excited. I'm ready to rock and roll because, we got two special guests here on the show. Joining me once again, co-hosting this episode with me is ring announcer and wrestling correspondent who seems to be kicking ass wherever she goes, and that's Julie Cutler. How are you doing, Julie?
Tony, what an introduction. I love that for me. Thank you so much. I am so excited to be back. I know it's been a couple of weeks since we've been able to get together. You've been very busy yourself. It seems like you did a lot of really awesome interviews and a lot of great work at WrestleCade. So I've been following your journey, and I'm really excited today because, as you know, I've been doing ring announcing up in the Northeast for the Wrestling Federation of America these past several months. I started attending shows in May and have been doing ring announcing since about July. And over the course of time, I have become good friends with many members of the roster, including our very special guest today. Introducing from the Providence Underground, weighing in at 221 pounds, he is the heavy metalweight and the current WFA heavyweight champion, Moshpit.
Well, if you want to talk about introductions, Julie, I think you have that one down to a
Yeah.
T. I love hearing it. I love hearing it. Thank you so much. Thanks for having me, guys. I hope you're having like a fruitful Sunday today.
Thank you. Well, I definitely have been. And now that we are here with you, it's definitely going to get a lot more exciting. I'm personally very eager to do this interview because I know, Andy, you and I have done a lot of chatting backstage. We've talked a lot about your background prior to wrestling, and we've talked, both of us, about like our journeys sort of getting into the wrestling business. And so I thought it would be really interesting to kind of dive into what your wrestling fandom started like and how that developed into you eventually breaking into the wrestling industry yourself.
So I got into wrestling a little bit later in life, I guess. Um, but I'm really glad that I did because it was my shoot job, my job in production that got me into wrestling. I worked at a venue in Providence that they used to host Beyond all the time. And we had a promotion called Wrestling Has a Tomorrow that started running in our venue. And I always thought like, wow, I've loved WWF when I was a kid, and I always thought that like the one thing that independent wrestling was missing was a little bit of production value. And here I am with this venue, and I have this stage, and I have lights, and I have a little bit of ambition, and like I'm thinking, all right, what can we do for these guys to make it like a cool experience, and like have it be a little something special. And so just over time, we started like adding things in. I started bringing in some lights to throw over the ring, and just kind of make everything look a little bit better, and trying to like one up ourselves every time we did it. And there was one of the owners was doing like a spotlight match there that night from the XWA, and pulled me aside towards the end of the show and said, "Hey, we've got this place down in West Warwick. We've got all these lights. We have no idea what to do with it. You should come and check our place out." And it started as just like, "Hey, I'm going to go and do a little gig, make a couple extra bucks." And I saw this place was right down the street from where I grew up, like 5 minutes barely, and I didn't even know it was there. So I kind of got this like sentimental attachment, and I was like, I'm gonna give them some of my lights. We're gonna do some things proper. They had some okay stuff in there, but I wanted them to have like nice stuff. And it turned into me going every week. Every Thursday night we were there for Thursday night throwdowns and student showcase, and it just started snowballing and getting into this bigger and bigger thing until I remember being like in Gorilla, and I asked the owner, I was like, oh, just out of curiosity, how much would it cost for me to go to the school? And he was grateful for all the work that I had done, and said, "Go, just go to the school. You've helped us so much." And production literally paid my way through wrestling school. That was me paying my dues, and I still I still did all the ring crews and I still, did training and all that, but it was my production job that got me into it. And I feel like I have kind of a cool and unique perspective on wrestling
I
because of
like,
that.
yeah, I was gonna say, I really like, I appreciate the production part of it. Like, I believe even with my stuff, like, I don't just do phone interviews. Like, I really try to go above and beyond to set myself above from everybody else. And that's what I've seen in your content as well, too. Not just, with wrestling stuff, but like in your like vignettes that you've done, like the lighting and the smoke. And you can really tell, like, you can see the influences of your production background in those.
Thank you for that, by the way, because those have all been just like passion projects that just kind of has helped me figure out who I am as a wrestler. Um, and a good friend of mine, Kevin, he helped me with like the first like the birth of Moshpit one that's on my Instagram. We did that with one light and a laser in his basement. And we filmed from a couple of different angles, and then but we did like a performance take, and that crown that you see made out of barbed wire, that is actually a piece of barbed wire from Matt Taven and Vinny's cage match. Um, uh, I was able to work that and be part of the crew for that show. And towards the end, that was one of the little keepsakes I was able to take with me. And I made that crown as like a little Easter egg for, where I come from, and to tell that story a little bit.
That is such a cool story. And I know, Andy, you and I have talked a little bit behind the scenes as well about Matt Taven. That was one of the names that you brought up. So I wanted to ask you a little bit more about sort of your influences in wrestling, who you were training with, who inspired you, and who sort of inspired, where did you get this inspiration from for the Mosh Pit character? Because obviously there's a lot of that's pulled in from like who you are in real life as a person as well. So how did that sort of come together for you during your wrestling training and during your journey?
So Mosh Pit was like kind of always who I wanted to be. I think I knew that right off the bat, day one. I was like, Mosh Pit, like it's a cool name. It was something that ties me back to when I was in the military, and like I felt like it represented me in a good way, and the rest was just figuring out how to be that, and that was what really took a little bit of time. But like as far as my influences, I know this is like probably a bit of a divisive subject at the moment, but I was always a big punk fan. Um, you know, I related to that as being kind of the person who's not afraid to say what's on people's mind, who will say the tough thing, and stand up for people and stand up for what's right, to a certain degree. That whole story arc where the pipe bomb thing, of course everybody loves that, but I resonated with it just from kind of a speaking from an honest place thing, kind of a primal emotion kind of uh, like origin, I guess. And from there, like I always wanted to be like more of somebody who can kind of like overcome anything. Because like I've I feel like I've made it through some pretty tough stuff in my life, and it was always just this will to not want to be a quitter that got me through it. And that's kind of like the essence of like the mosh pit thing. So like people like Punk inspired me. Um, the people that I watched as far as like wrestlers that I just idolized, like Dean Malenko, Jerry Lynn, Eddie Guerrero. Those were the guys that I loved to watch wrestle. The characters though, CM Punk, The Rock. I hated Kurt Angle, but in the best way. You know.
I was a
Um,
big Kurt Angle girl myself, so
I was gonna say,
we might be feuding over this at some
Julie is clashing cartons of milk together. I know that from our interview.
I wonder what's stickier. Do you think that clashing the cartons of milk or that beer that I hit at Barrel House Z on top of the truck?
Oh, that was amazing. I don't know. I don't know who saw this. If you had seen, there was like a little vignette that we had posted prior to this interview, sort of advertising this interview. And one of the pictures that I was able to pull for that was the picture of you on top of the truck with the beers, smashing the beers together. That was an iconic mosh pit moment. And
That was my Stone Cold moment. I like
yeah.
speaking of people who inspired me. Stone Cold was a badass. I was so happy all day. I was like, I'm gonna have a little Stone Cold moment. I'm gonna slam some beers. We're gonna stomp some mud holes. It's gonna be a fun day.
Yeah, and so something else that I wanted to ask you about, just like listening to your description of some of your inspirations and just hearing you talk about your character. I know you mentioned overcoming adversity, and I think that's something that a lot of us in wrestling have in common. Like it seems as though everybody in wrestling, for the most part, has some sort of a really interesting backstory, things that they've had to overcome, battles that they've had to overcome that sort of pushed them to the point of wanting to break through the industry and sort of spread that message of overcoming adversity to other people. And so I was interested in kind of asking you a bit more about that. I know you have a background in the military, and I was curious to see what sort of life experiences do you have that you feel like influenced your wrestling career and sort of the messaging that you want to spread to other people.
So I've been thinking about this a lot lately, actually. And like now that I'm starting to get a little bit further along and starting to make, a bit of a name for myself, which is the goal, get out there, get people to see you. And I always wondered, like, when I have a chance to speak about something, like what is it that I would like to advocate for and use that platform that I do have for. And one thing that keeps coming up is is veteran awareness. You know, um, the struggle more recently for me, and one of the things that wrestling helped me with so much was when I left the military, there was this void, you know. Uh, I couldn't really explain what it was, but it was just this emptiness inside that I just couldn't really figure out what was supposed to go there anymore. Because like the military was so much purpose. Everything was laid out for you. You didn't have to overthink things. You were kind of told what to do, where to be, when to be there. You had a mission all the time. There was always just something at the forefront. What's the next thing? What's the next thing? And once that's gone, you kind of have all this like leftover programming up here. And even for somebody that didn't experience, what I would consider like a tragic event, like, being wounded overseas or something like that, I I still know that there are veterans that come home all the time that struggle with it even worse than I did, and they don't make it out. They don't know how to they don't know how to deal with not being a Marine, not being a soldier or a warrior anymore. And and just recently I lost a friend from my old unit, and it was very difficult. Um,
I'm sorry for your
I
loss.
always thanks. It's this was one of the things that made me really think about it is like when this hit, I just didn't know how to process it. And I hadn't spoken to him in a while. We kind of lost touch, but he was a very good friend of mine. He was one of the people that kind of like got me through the early years when it was tough. And I thought about how many people just kind of lose that battle here more often than not. They lose it when they come home. They don't lose the fight when they're fighting the enemy. It's the silent, invisible one here that gets so many people. And that was what happened to me when I found wrestling. Wrestling became that for me. Wrestling filled that void. Wrestling gave me that purpose again. It made me happy. And the best thing in the world is that we can go in there, we can fight, we can be aggressive, we can throw hands, we can get stiff with each other if it's, something that, if the person you're in the ring with, you can have a good time and really like get all those negative emotions out. And then at the end, everybody gets to go home. You know,
Moshpit. Yeah, I definitely want to, thank you for your service. It's something that I never did. And in my shoot job, I have talked to veterans over my career in my real job. I've never served, but it does seem to be the reoccurring theme of like when guys and girls come home from overseas, the struggle is so real. Do you think there's any advice that you would give somebody that is going through something so that they don't know how to deal with? Like, what would their first steps be?
Well, first of all, the VA has gotten so much better in the past few years. When I first came home, I think it was like maybe 2012-ish, if I remember, maybe 2013. I tried to go to the VA and just kind of utilize some of the services and stuff, and it was kind of a nightmare. And it made me not want to go back. And a few years ago, I ended up going because I needed something to do with my knee, and it was a 180. It was completely different. The amount of resources, and I think that was half the battle, is that they didn't have a lot of resources. They were underfunded, and there are a lot of like things that needed to be fixed in the back workings and whatnot. But the skinny of it was the VA is very much a much better resource. I've utilized their mental health services for several years now. My health is the best it's ever been because I have a great doctor that I trust. And I would say that that's the first thing, is that if you're struggling, there are people that you can talk to. There are numbers. There's a suicide prevention hotline on the VA website. Like, it's all right there. I think it's on the main page actually. If you feel like you don't want to be here anymore, give it give it a day. Call somebody, talk to somebody, make sure that that's really what you want. Because like, more often than not, I think if you give it some time, you'll decide that you'll see that that's not really the avenue you want to go. But I would say that, and the other thing too is people can be, advocates for the veterans in your life. Check in on them, give them a call. If you haven't talked in a while, shoot them a text. Just just checking in can be so much, because those are the people that were thought to be the solution to the problems. So they're going to be the last people to ask for help.
Wow, Andy. Well, first of all, I want to reiterate Tony's message of thank you so much for your service. And I really appreciate you coming on here, being so vulnerable, being so open and honest, especially because I think sometimes in wrestling, and in life in general, men especially are sort of taught to carry themselves with this sort of bravado and kind of withhold their feelings and not talk about their feelings because they're supposed to be strong. And so I think it means a lot, and it speaks a lot for somebody like you, who is, a rising star in the wrestling industry. He's getting ripped in the gym. You're a heavyweight champion, to also be able to come on here and be able to be so open and so vulnerable. So I really appreciate that, and I completely stand behind all of your messaging. And I kind of wanted to use some of your talking points to sort of segue into my next question, because we've been talking a lot about how what you do impacts the fans and what kind of messaging you're looking to send to the fans. And so I was curious, as you've been developing in the wrestling industry, in the indie wrestling scene, what kinds of interactions have you had with fans? Like, are there any really meaningful or memorable interactions that you've had with people that have kind of made you feel like, okay, like, this is why I'm doing this. This is why I'm here.
Oh, 100%. It's been so, and most of it has been the fans in Concord. They're the best.
They are
And
the
it's the little things, because let's see, somebody when we were at Barrel House Z, one of the fans made me they made me into a baseball card or a trading card. They took like a picture they took from the front row when I defended one of the nights I defended the championship. Um, they took that picture, they printed out a baseball card, they made like one for them and had me sign it, and then they gave me one. And I just remember looking at it thinking, wow, that's the coolest thing in the world. Like, not only to, be on like a trading card kind of thing, but somebody made that because they wanted to see it in the world. You know, I think that's the coolest thing. I said the same thing when I started playing music. I'm not that active anymore. I do like a lot more of like behind the scenes and engineering type stuff now. A little bit easier to make money that way, if you know what I mean. Um, but like I said the same thing in music. If I'm able to create an experience for one person, one person, you know, took that extra money that they had from their paycheck this week, and they decided they wanted to go out to a show. They wanted to see a wrestling event, or they wanted to see a metal band or something like that. That was their thing that they chose to spend their money on that night. If I can make you forget that the world sucks and that it's a struggle every day, if you can forget about that for even an hour and just have a good time and cut loose and just feel something here, you know, then it was worth it. It was worth spending thousands of dollars on expensive toys that only get used once a month. You know, it was worth the drives and being crammed into a tiny little, you know, Toyota Corolla with 4 dudes and 5 cabinets and drum kits and all that jazz. Driving down the road, you know, a bunch of hours to be at a promotion you've never been to just to hope you can get on the show, you know. All that stuff is worth it if people are able to take away an experience from it.
Mhm. I want to ask you, okay, obviously your name is Moshpit. Now, I'm more just of a classic, like I'm a Guns N' Roses, I'm a Pearl Jam guy. I'm not really into like the heavy metal, the moshing. I've only been in one experience where I've been to like kind of like a concert where there was a mosh pit going on. I said, okay, this is not for me. Now, have you ever been involved in like some type of just crazy mosh pit? And if you have, like, what bands were playing when you were involved with these mosh pits?
Okay, we're getting to the real question.
Yeah, okay, now we're gonna dive deep here. Now we're gonna
This
we're
is
getting to the
it's
fun
my
stuff
time to
now.
shine.
Well, okay, all right. Everybody, grab your popcorn. Let's get this thing rolling.
Okay. So, I will say that up there at number one, the absolute gnarliest pit where I thought, okay, maybe I don't have the chops to be in here right now, was Slayer, and it happened more than once. I saw Slayer at Ozfest when I was, I think it was high school, and I saw them 2 more times later on, both at the same venue, ironically. But I remember I was like, ooh, mosh pit, raining blood. And I was in there for maybe 20, 25 seconds, and then I stumbled my way out and went, nope. I caught like elbows to the gut, like getting hit in the head. It was rough, very rough. So I would put Slayer pits as number one, you know, a buyer beware kind of. Um, I think the most intense pit though, like the most fun overall, I was it was when I was stationed in California. There's a venue in Pomona called the Glass House, and pretty renowned for like you know, Southern California hardcore metalcore type stuff. The night that I went with a friend of mine, Corey, we went to see Throwdown, Bless the Fall, uh, and Demon Hunter, I believe. And funny enough, all Christian metal bands. Um, I'm not, you know, a particularly religious person or anything like that, but Christian metal bands go hard sometimes. And that night, I think we pit from start to close. Like everybody was moshing the entire time, whether it was like a giant circle pit, whether we were slam dancing, like actually like throwing fists. That night when we drove home, I had to drive my buddy's car for a little while because he definitely had a concussion, like maybe 2 concussions.
Oh no.
So I had to drive his car back to base that night.
I want to read two comments here real quick. Of course, Mosh Pit Messiah, who's a friend to our channel. He's a regular viewer here, and he says Slayer pits can get intense, so he knows exactly what you're talking about there. And right off the top, I want to get to this one. Cherry Bomb says, I want Julie to introduce me everywhere that I go. That was right off the top of the show.
That can be arranged. That might be a service that we can arrange. We'll have to have like a sidebar conversation after the show about that. But
yes, you can. We can hit up the emails. Julie is open for booking. I mean, I should speak for you, but I think Julie is open for bookings. Yeah.
I am open for
bookings. As a testimonial, she is a natural. And she's added so much to WFA since she's been there. Like, definitely filled a void that needed to be filled, and I absolutely adore her in that job. She's doing great.
Thank you so much.
I was gonna say I love seeing Julie on the cover of the flyers there. I think that says a lot when you got the ring announcer on the fly. A lot of shows I cover, you don't see the ring announcer on the flyers. I see Julie Cutler on the flyers of those.
Let me tell you something else. So Moshpit, being our champion, he's on all the flyers. He's like front and center in all the flyers. This most recent flyer for our first show of the year, which is going to be January 20th. It's called Break the Ice in Weymouth, Massachusetts. Moshpit is front and center on the flyer. And then I'm right behind him. So I was.
You mean that one right there, right?
Oh wow! There we go.
Oh, there it is.
I was prepared for you guys tonight.
You were prepared. So Mosh is in the center, and then I'm right behind him. So I was joking around, and I was like, "Are Andy and I, are Moshpit and I having a match? Am I challenging him for the title? Is that what's happening?"
Right.
That was pretty well accepted too by just about everybody in the booking group.
Yeah, I mean, see, I don't know, you know, how that's gonna go, being that you know, I have some pretty stiff competition, but who knows? I've got a lot in the tank. I've gotten a lot in the tank, so we'll have to revisit that at some point.
Hey, you seem like at least more of a fair competitor than most of the people I've had to fight in recent memory.
Okay.
We need to clip this one and send it to all his past opponents.
Well,
Go ahead. What are they going to do? Say something.
Obviously nothing, right?
This actually segues perfectly into one of the next questions that I was going to ask you, which is, you know, you had a big 2023, you have accomplished a lot in 2023. And, you know, being that it's kind of like the holiday season, we're getting towards the New Year's, we're getting towards the new year, new me, New Year's resolutions. I wanted to ask you about, firstly, what are some of the moments and some of the accomplishments that you're the most proud of from 2023? And do you have anything that's sort of like on your bucket list for 2024 that you feel like you can share with us at this point?
Sure. I actually kind of wanted to wait until now to like actually start thinking about this, because we're like getting towards the end of the year, and I've been wanting to like do that recap in my head and like kind of think about, like, I know I've done a lot this year. I know it's been like pretty crazy. There's a lot of stuff on the list, like, but I wanted to wait because this weekend I knew we had this interview. But yesterday I got the opportunity to go down to Virginia and do my first like outside of New England wrestling deal. And so I made my debut in Virginia for Mid-Atlantic Territories Wrestling. Awesome experience. It was I got to go down with Uncle Bob, Brutal Bob Evans, and Tim Hughes, and also Joe Clean. He's a Creative Pro guy from New Jersey. Give him a shout out. Awesome dude to ride in the car with. Just great vibes all the way around. But like I knew I was knocking that off my list, and that was a big one, is to get out of New England, because I've been doing pretty much regional for this past year, which I was really happy with. I kind of wanted to like hold some in the tank and not really travel too much if I didn't have to. And like whatever promotions I work with, I wanted to give them a lot of attention if I could. But I think this year, from winning the belt, that was big. It was my first championship, and I felt like it was really the fruit of my labor. You know, like I showed them that I really wanted it. And I think that was why they put me in a position where, you know, I would have a chance to win it. And I was really proud of that. With my shoot job, I wanted to be the guy this year that people hit up and said, if we want something done right, we call Andy. You know, I took it upon myself to take up some like, you know, not so desired projects, because I like felt it was like kind of personal, and I wanted the best for everywhere that we have under our company umbrella. And I wanted to be the guy, you know, pretty much all the way around. That was my goal this year, is just to be the guy. And I feel like I did the best that I could, and I'm pretty proud of that. And then this coming year, the money kind of wasn't there. There was a lot of work, a lot of grind, and a lot of, you know, just kind of making things happen. So like my goal for 2024 is to like have the same work ethic, the same mentality of going after these next things on my goals list, but making the money match this time. You know, that's my goal.
Is there any place in the country that you're looking forward to travel to? Because, you know, you said you wanted to get out and you went down to Virginia this weekend, but obviously it's still like the Northern East? Are you trying to go out? Where would you like to go? Would you like to go to California? Would you like to come down to here to the South, down in Florida, Chicago? Like, is there any like really cool places you still like are dying to wrestle at?
Oh, 100%. Florida. I've been meaning to get down to Florida anyway because the Kingdom Boys are down that way, and I'd love to be able to catch up because the wrestling business kind of keeps you apart sometimes, and you got to take your opportunities to catch up with the family when you can. But Florida has a really good wrestling scene from what I can tell, and I think that might be a cool place to check out. Texas for sure. I have a bunch of friends out that way, like internet friends. I've been meaning to link up and meet IRL, as it were. California, I used to live in Southern California for 5, 6 years, and I have a lot of friends out that way I'd love to catch up with. They have a great wrestling scene out that way as well. The upper Northwest, like Seattle, Washington area, would love to hit that. I want to go anywhere. I want to, just check boxes, hit, cross states off the list.
And Tony, you brought up something very interesting in that question. You mentioned, I know you're based in Florida. I've been down to Florida a couple of times, which is where we met at Pro Wrestling Action. I just wanted to add really quickly, I think, Andy, with your resume and your character, I think there's a lot you'd be able to do in the Florida wrestling scene. I think that you would take the Florida wrestling scene by storm because they have some great promotions down there. They have a lot of great characters down there, and there's a number of people in Florida I would love to see you mix it up with. Speaking of which, are there any people that are sort of on your radar imminently that you're looking to get in the ring with, step toe to toe with in 2024? Anybody on the indie scene, or even any big names signed to any big major companies? Is there anybody who you've kind of had your eye on that you're looking to mix it up with in the near future?
Yeah. Now that now that I'm at the point where like I feel like, all right, maybe I know a little bit and I can get out of my own way in the ring, so to speak. Um, I definitely have a few people on my list. There's some I do want to be able to have like that cool moment, be able to wrestle one of my trainers. That would be awesome. Goal list for down the road somewhere. Just want to speak that into the universe so it's there. Um, as far as up where we're at, it's it's interesting to see how far um, Spencer Slade has been kept away from me because I think that's going to be something in a big
Okay.
way. Um, I think him and I have some chemistry there, and I'm interested to see what happens because I think that one's more of an inevitability. Um, there are definitely some local guys around here. I had this written down too. Now I have to think about it. Um,
It'll come
so
back to you.
uh,
It'll come back to you.
there's a friend of mine out in Texas. His name is Alexander Crowley. I would love to be able to wrestle him. He's another cool like heavy metal guy. Um, I'd love to like cross some legends off the list. Like I know Minoru Suzuki floats around the indies sometimes, and that's always been like, if I ever got a chance to wrestle Suzuki, oh, I would die. He would kill me, but I would love every second of that.
I was gonna say I just had wrestler Robert Martyr on the channel about 3 months ago, and he wrestled Suzuki and said the chops from him are unlike nothing you've ever felt because of the way he chops. It's different with the overhand chop versus I guess the Ric Flair chop. That the chops
Yeah.
literally takes the breath out of you. Like
So I have heard about that, and I
you've
heard
heard about it.
that he uses like his forearm too as part of the chop, so he's covering this gigantic surface area when he actually hits you. I can see that. Mm.
Yeah, they just
I
fall
mean,
right down to your knee. It's not even
I
like just
mean,
taking it. Yeah.
yeah, pummel me, Daddy Suzuki, but I digress.
And is there anybody, I guess, while we're reflecting, while we're looking back on 2023 in your career so far, is there any opponent that stands out to you? Any match that you look back on that you feel like was a career highlight, or anybody in particular that you wrestled that you felt like you just got a lot out of the experience? Like anybody that you want to hype up for their future opponents? Who stands out to you? What were some big moments for you in 2023?
So I'll give you two-parter because I can't not say Malonis. He's amazing, amazing. Um, I learned so much from the series that we did together this year. Every time we got in the ring, I think we talked about less and less, and we just kind of felt each other out more and more, which I love that when we can just be organic with it. Um, and those are the things that make me feel more comfortable in the ring. You know, like sometimes I'll like get in my own head. Overthinking is one of my Achilles heels, and when we were wrestling, none of that. I felt calm. I felt in the moment, and he helped me grow like quite a bit in a very short amount of time, and I will always love him for that. He gave me every opportunity to make myself into something big, and he was right there for the whole thing. So I got to say, Brian Malonis, you are my hero. Thank you for everything.
He's a great guy too. He's a funny guy, and he has a ton of experience. I mean, how many people can say, I mean, at this point in your career, you've wrestled someone who's wrestled in Madison Square Garden?
100%. And to your point, he's just the nicest human being that I've ever met. Some of our conversations just in the locker room have been like, I don't know, memorable to a point where I'll think about it later on and be like, man, what a fucking sweetheart. Excuse my language. I'm sorry.
Go for it. It's okay. We don't censor anybody out here.
Yeah, so I got to give him that shout out, and then I want to shout out somebody from my home promotion too, because him and I had quite the feud earlier this year. The difference, Tyler Brooks. That guy's come a long way, and I think when we were having our feud this year at Top Rope Promotions, him and I both we came out of it a lot better. Like we learned a lot about each other, we learned a lot about ourselves as wrestlers, and Tyler's the interstate champion at Top Rope now, and so I just wanted to give him a little hey buddy, good job.
I know Julie asked you about, awesome interactions. You mentioned the trading card thing, which I think is super cool. Like that somebody goes way out of their way to do something like that. And that's just such a great moment. But has there been anything like just so bizarre or weird or ridiculous that's happened to you, whether it was in the ring versus an opponent or a fan interaction that kind of stands out to you?
I can't think of anything that's like truly ridiculous. I will say that there was a gentleman I met last night in Virginia that was he was an older guy, but he was he mentioned several times that he was retired. And, like he likes to go to wrestling shows. That's his thing. What a character, though. He accosted me in the bathroom. I had gone to the bathroom. I was like in full gimmick, face paint, the whole nine, and I was like checking myself out in the mirror, making sure I'm good. And as I was like turning to leave, he just like starts to make casual conversation with me. I'm like, all right, this is nice. Obviously, I'm not going to be mean to anybody, but like I'm also in the bathroom. So he was like telling me about how like, oh yeah, so my wife divorced me about 15 years ago, and that was about 5 years before I was going to retire. So I just kept working, and eventually I just had to stop working because of my back, and now I just like to go to wrestling shows.
The conversations that you're dying to run away from, but you just can't.
And meanwhile, thank God my bladder was empty. But yeah, it was a funny interaction. I wouldn't say I was like mad about it or anything like that. But yeah, I think that was probably one of the funnier fan interactions that I've had. Everybody else has been like really nice. Aside from getting random messages on Instagram asking to send pictures of my socks. That's a little weird.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, Julie knows. Julie knows.
Though. It's crazy the things that you can make money from these days. That's all I'm gonna say about that.
Like, have you
Some
thought
of
about starting an OnlyFans account just showing your socks? Like,
Oh
I
my
mean, you
god.
said you're trying to make some money. I'm just trying to help out here.
Listen, I'm seeing some of the prices that people are offering, and it has me thinking about things a different way. I'll be
See. I would like to ask you about. I'm sorry, Jill. If you
No,
have
you
something,
go,
go.
go ahead. Go ahead.
When you first started, I saw you just mentioned you were doing the face paint in the bathroom. When you first started, I didn't see face paint. Now you do have the face paint. Was there a reason for the switch to go into use the face paint where you are now?
Sure. So that happened kind of by accident. Originally, there wasn't really anything extra to it. Like you said, I didn't wear the makeup. I just kind of had, my gear and my image, whatever that was at the time. And it turned out that I was kind of like I was starting to get booked a little bit more. I was still kind of green, but I was getting matches, and they were trying to kind of figure out what to do with me. So they put me with these guys called the Beastmasters, and at the time they were kind of they still do it. They have like Jason style masks, and they have like chains and stuff as part of their gimmick. And adding me to that mix, I was like, okay, well, how can I kind of like incorporate myself? Because like I don't have gear right off the bat to kind of match theirs. I can only do so much to kind of look part of the group. So I was like, okay, I can't get a mask right off bat, but I could do like some death metal paint on my face or something like that to kind of bring some synergy to it. And from there, I loved it. I saw pictures from after the show, and I was like, that's brutal. That's got to stay. And a couple other people, like friends of mine, were like, "Oh, that's really cool." And it was all just like affirmation at that point that like, okay, the makeup has to stay. It's got to be a thing now. And from yeah, it's pretty much stayed the same. Once in a while, I'll do like if I'm feeling like a little frisky, I'll do like different designs. But for the most part, it's just based off of Spawn.
Okay.
Okay,
It's like
all
a
right.
yeah, it's just like a version of the mask that Spawn has on his Hellspawn suit, but it's in black, and it's kind of like done in the style of like Nurgle from Behemoth, his like death mask that he wears on stage. So it's like a combination of the two.
Okay. And I wanted to add really quick to that, Andy. So when you mentioned like you did the face paint one time and you saw it and you said, okay, that's really cool. That has to stay. As somebody that has been very much into makeup myself, I used to collect makeup and do different makeup looks. And I felt the same way. It was like the more that I did or the more that I tried certain like bigger and better things, it's like once you see it, you're like, okay, that's too cool.
Yeah.
I can't not do it again. So I love that you kept that as part of your character. And it's kind of, I think in some ways like a way to really transform yourself backstage. I know I'm a big Dustin Rhodes fan myself, and I know he's talked a lot about like his face paint, and he's done videos where he shows himself applying it, and he kind of talks about like putting on his war paint and sort of like using that as a way to sort of get himself in character. Is there any sort of ritual or anything that you do backstage in terms of like your preparation process for getting into the right headspace for a match, sort of getting really into that mosh pit character? Because obviously it's still, a part of yourself, but you're transforming at the same time. So what sort of helps you get pumped up when you're about to get ready to go through the curtain?
So I've actually tried to find like a thing, that I like do like, oh, maybe I'll do this, maybe I'll I'll do some exercises to get warmed up or whatever, but I haven't really found um like a pre through the curtain ritual, so to speak, because my ritual starts like that first 15 seconds of my intro music. The microphone feedback and the bar noise and all that stuff. Those 15 seconds is like the light switch flipping for me. As soon as I hear all that noise, like it puts me in that, oh, we're back in the dive bar and I'm about to rip my guitar for 45 minutes, and that's the switch, that's the ritual, that's what puts me in the zone. And as soon as I come through the curtain and I hear, the metal drop in, I'm like, oh, I'm right here. We're right here. And fans, if I can go and interact with them on the way to the ring, and especially in Concord, because like so many of the kids out that way are like just so excited to, because like I'll find somebody in Mosh with them, like I'll headbang with them in the beginning when I come to the ring and stuff. So like sometimes the kids look out for that, and like that's the stuff. That's the stuff. I love seeing people get excited. Enthusiasm is contagious for me. Um, so yeah, that's like my thing.
And something else that I wanted to add really quickly, just to put you over a little bit more.
That's what it's all about here. It's to put Moshpit over here tonight.
So
Last stars.
you and I were also lucky enough at the beginning of August to do a 2-day camp with Dr. Tom Pritchard, which, I mean, anybody in the wrestling business knows that Dr. Tom Pritchard has produced some of the most high caliber performers that there are. And something that he said, because we had a show that Friday night in Concord, and then we did our camp with him Saturday and Sunday throughout the rest of the weekend. So something that he had said when he was watching our show Friday night, the second that you came through the curtain, the second he heard your music and he saw your face paint and he saw your entire look put together, he said, okay, I understand what his gimmick is. I understand who he is. I understand what this guy is about. And I think that speaks a lot about even what you're doing, because at the end of the day in the wrestling industry, it's like you can be the greatest technical wrestler there is, but if you don't have a character that really makes sense and resonates with the fans, then that it's not going to get you over. So I just wanted to give you a little shout out for that, because clearly the work that you've been putting in these past several years has been really culminating to something that is memorable. So props to you for that.
Oh, thank you very much. That was like honestly, I don't talk about that a whole lot, but that was like a super cool moment when he said that during the seminar. Like I remember sitting there and thinking about like, oh, he's gonna talk about somebody, that came out in the show, and then he mentioned my name. Like, what is he really talking about me right now? Shit. Um, but yeah, just yeah, it was a cool moment. It made me feel like, all right, I'm at least on the right path, right?
Absolutely. If Dr. Tom Pritchard says you're on the right path, you're probably on the right path. That's what I like to think.
The right eyes are watching, damn it.
Now, we talked about that being memorable. What would you like to be remembered about you when your wrestling journey comes to an end, which is still far away? But what kind of legacy do you want to leave behind?
I want to be entertaining. I want the wrestling fans that, like the ones in New Hampshire that saw me on a flyer and was like, I like that guy. He's gonna be my guy. I want to be entertaining for those people, who believed in me before they knew me, and really just gave me a chance to be their guy. I want to be, not a scene of people's champion, but like, be the people's champion for that sect of wrestling fans that like heavy metal. That people like me that saw like their favorite wrestlers coming out to like really heavy tunes back in the day, and like that made you go and buy the WWF CDs, and listen to people's themes. Like I used to love Test's theme. Test's theme was badass.
Yes, that was.
Like those are the people, like the people that like resonate with the music and the wrestling. Those are the people that I want to be entertaining for. And like I said, if I hang up my boots when it's all said and done, and like I never main evented WrestleMania, I'm okay with that. Of course that's a goal, and it should always be there on the shelf until it isn't an option anymore. But like think about like how many people have main evented WrestleMania in the history of ever. I think it's like 80. It's like less than 100 people out of all the people that have existed ever. Like statistically, okay, but I have goals for myself. Like I want to be on TV. You'll see me there. I'll be there.
And that's something that I say actually a lot of the time when I'm doing like hype, just kind of like hype woman stuff at the beginning of some of our shows. Because I mean, look at how many people started out on the indies that have eventually gotten picked up by major companies. And you look back and you see some of their indie work and you see how that sort of contributed to them becoming the performer that they are today. I like to tell people in the audience, don't take this lightly, because the people that you see here today, next year, within a couple of years, they could be on a major television network. So this is your opportunity to meet them first, get a picture with them, chat with them, because you don't know where they're going to be, a year or two from now. They could just skyrocket. So I always like to make that point to the fans, because that's really ultimately, I think, what pretty much everybody that's here is working towards, is building a brand for ourselves so that we can ultimately keep growing and doing bigger and better things. And so, that being said, do you have any shows or any major plans on deck for the end of 2024, or I'm sorry, the end of 2023 going into 2024? What is on your radar? Where can we look out for Mosh Pit?
So I have one more show for 2023, and it's at my home promotion at Top Rope Promotions in Fall River. I believe it is December 29th, and it is the Spindle City Rumble. I'm not sure exactly what the card looks like so far, um, but I'm right now I am the number one contender for the heavyweight championship, and at the first available opportunity, I will be taking my Gold Rush briefcase with my contract inside, and I will be making a challenge to uh, world class Channing Thomas.
Oh, so we could potentially be seeing Andy Two Belts in the near future.
That is a very lofty goal of mine for 2024. I will be realistic and say that that Channing Thomas is probably one of the best wrestlers, not just in New England, but like in the country right now. And I've got my work cut out for me for sure. But it should be entertaining nonetheless.
Absolutely. And he's doing some really entertaining stuff right now. I know I follow his social media all the time. And like you said, he is crushing it right now in the independent scene as well. So definitely another person that we're going to want to be out on the lookout for.
Yeah, Moshpit Messiah wants to know if Moshpit is coming down to Miami. It's all we're putting it out there. We put it out there in the universe that hopefully there's enough bad dudes down here to come and scrap with down here in Florida. We hope so, right?
100%, and there's always the other option. I hate to be the guy to say that, but like, hey, tag your local promotions. If there's somebody that you think that your promotions would benefit from having on their shows, and not just as it pertains to me, but if you are going out there and seeing those wrestlers, those independent wrestlers that before they get out there and they're on TV and everything, and you think they should be somewhere, don't be afraid to reach out. Tell your promoters, tag them on social media. Be like, hey, these are guys you should be looking at. These are guys that we would love to see wrestle for us. It's a great way to interact and let people know what you like as a fan. So we can do better work for you.
And that's the great thing about social media and how it ties into wrestling these days, is there's so much that you can accomplish in terms of uh, booking decisions, recommending people, seeing what other people are doing, putting your open challenges out there. That's the beautiful thing with like Instagram and Facebook and like all these platforms that we use, is you can kind of use that as a vehicle as well. If there's somebody that you do want to get in the ring with, you can kind of scope out the situation and call them out before you even see them face to face. So speaking of social media, I wanted to ask Andy Moshpit, where can the people watching tonight find you on social media? Where can we follow the rest of your journey as it unfolds?
My Instagram is kind of my main squeeze. I think that's, kind of one of my best medias to be able to, to put content out there when I do. My handle on there is Tales of the Mosh Pit, TAILZ. But you can't just search Mosh Pit. My name usually comes up right away. On Twitter, I am King Mosh Dora. Um, and on Facebook, you should be able to find me as well. I do have a TikTok. I'm not as active on there, but there's some like cool. I put like lighting stuff on there when I do cool lighting gigs, and sometimes I'll do like some behind the scenes in my office when I'm like time coding light shows for tours and stuff like that. Um, So I definitely want to be more active on that in the new year and everything like that. But if you are on TikTok, that's where you can find me there.
Now, I do have one final question, and it's not even for Moshpit, it's for Julie. So I think it's only appropriate to ask
Ooh.
Julie. I mentioned that I never got inside of a mosh pit. Julie Cutler, have you ever found yourself in the middle of a mosh pit?
Wow, what a question, Tony. Honestly, I have not yet, but perhaps Moshpit here could show me the way. So I'm gonna leave that.
I will be your metal spirit guide, Jules.
I'm gonna say I have not yet, but I have great faith that you can be my metal spirit guide in the future.
I was gonna say, as long as you have him watching your back in that mosh pit, I think you'll be
I
okay.
think if he can be like my bodyguard, which I would very much trust you to be my bodyguard, then I think we're cooking with gas.
Well, listen, you have to understand the power of bravado when it comes to the heavy metal community. Because if small Jules just kind of struts her way into the middle of the pit and just kind of stares everybody down, I feel like most people would back away for fear that they don't know how much power is contained in this small little unit.
I kind of love that for me, actually.
Now, Julie, do you want to tell people where they can look you up at?
Absolutely. So I'm also probably the most active on Instagram. I don't currently have Twitter or TikTok, but my Instagram is at the Crown Jewels. It is crown with an E at the end. It's the old English spelling. That is just how we roll. And you will be able to see, I will be sharing more clips from this interview, and I will also be sharing information for our upcoming show, the upcoming show that Andy and I, Moshpit and I, are going to be a part of together. The WFA is going to be making our return for the Brew World Order tour. This is going to be January 20th, a Saturday at Tacklebox Brewing Company in Marlborough, Massachusetts. So we will continue to share more information about that as it comes forward. And who knows, I might even be challenging Moshpit for the heavyweight championship.
Now that is the match of 2024 that we really want to see.
Let's book it. I will get a flight to Massachusetts if that match goes. Okay, we'll make it happen. We'll make it happen.
Absolutely.
Standing room only for this shit.
Oh, it's gonna be it's gonna be.
Calendar.
It will be a slobber knocker, a barn burner, whatever wrestling terminology you want to throw out there. It'll definitely be that. Well, guys,
we just need to get JR on commentary.
There we go.
Isabel.
Make it happen. Make it happen. Now, this week on Tone In Entertainment, we're dropping 3 interviews that I just dropped, that I just recorded last night at CCW. We got Alan S2S Martinez and Rich Wise, and of course, the awesome CCW Tag Team Champions, The Crown. They got their own beer in their honor last night. We tried it. It was. Well, you'll have to watch the video on Friday when that one drops. But also, I just want to announce my next 2 podcasts while we're on here, because you talked about 2 belts. So I have somebody coming on the podcast next week with 2 belts. And we've got Tiffany Nieves coming on next week,
Nice.
the OVW Women's Champion, the Mission Pro Women's Champion. And Moshpit Messiah has been on here, and he knows all about this. Next Thursday, we're doing Sting Trivia Night, a 10-person podcast.
Wow.
It's gonna be awesome. It is gonna be it's gonna be something I've been wanting to do for a long time. Sting Trivia Night next Thursday.
Showtime.
It's showtime, folks. Well, guys, I don't know if there's anything else that either one of you want to touch on before we wrap this up.
No, I just wanted to say thank you so much to both of you for the opportunity to come and talk to you guys. This has been awesome, and I've been looking forward to it all week.
Thank you so much, Moshpit, for joining us. And I will be seeing you in January when you put your WFA Heavyweight Championship on the line once again, and we will see what is in store for you in 2024.
I'll see you in the pit.
Well, nothing but the best to you, Moshpit, Julie. I know we'll have some stuff coming in the future that we'll be working on. I'm absolutely positive of that. So, guys, it's definitely been a pleasure. And for those that have been watching this on demand and or here live in the chat. Thank you guys so much. So, guys, if you haven't already, make sure you're following Moshpit. Make sure you're following Julie Cutler. And also make sure you hit that red subscribe button so you can stay tuned in here to Toned In Entertainment for future videos. Subscribe to the channel. Do it. Go now. Do it now.